Let me ask you something. And please, do not answer too quickly. Have you ever looked at your life? Have you looked at the struggles, the setbacks, and the long nights of silence? Have you wondered why God allows certain people to go through so much, while others seem to glide through life, virtually untouched? Why are some people shaped in the shadows of pressure and loss, while others are celebrated early, loudly, and publicly? If you have felt like an outsider looking in, there is a truth you need to hear. It is a truth the world rarely mentions. God does not choose people the way the world does. The world is obsessed with the impressive. It looks for the finished product, the loud voice, and the polished resume. But God? God chooses the prepared. The world looks for talent that can be sold. God looks for hearts he can trust. You see, being called is common. It is the invitation sent to many. But being chosen? That is costly. Many hear the voice, but few stay when obedience becomes uncomfortable. Many want the purpose, but few are willing to be reshaped to carry it. This message is not here to flatter you, or to give you a temporary emotional high. It is here to expose, to confirm, and to realign. Because if God has chosen you, it did not happen by accident. It was not random. And it definitely was not because you were perfect. In fact, if you feel unsettled today, or if you have carried a quiet sense that there is more despite your pain, this is not just entertainment. This is recognition. Today, we are exploring the types of people God chooses. This is not based on titles or platforms. It is based on the posture of the soul. Somewhere in this journey, you will see your own reflection. Listen carefully, not with your ears, but with your spirit. Let us begin with the one that defies all human logic. God often chooses the broken before he ever chooses the gifted. In our culture, we hide our cracks. We use filters to smooth the edges, and pride to mask our insecurities. We think that to be used by God, we must be flawless, confident, and have it all together. But the Bible tells a different story. It tells us that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he saves those who are crushed in spirit. If you have been wounded, or if life has humbled you in ways you never planned, you might feel disqualified. You might think your failures have pushed you to the sidelines. But in the kingdom of heaven, brokenness is not a disqualification. It is a positioning. Brokenness does something success never can. It destroys self-reliance. When you are whole in your own eyes, you do not need a savior. You only need a spectator. But when you are broken, you learn how to listen. You learn how to handle other people's hearts with care, because you know what it feels like to be shattered. Think of Peter. He was the disciple who was so sure of his own strength. He promised he would never leave Jesus. Yet, in the moment of greatest pressure, he denied him 3 times. That is a profound brokenness. It is the shattering of one's ego. Yet, it was this same broken Peter, restored by the beach, who was chosen to lead the early church. Why? Because a man who has seen his own failure is a man who can no longer look down on others. He becomes a conduit for grace, not a judge of sin. When God chooses the broken, he is looking for a heart like David's. He was a man who, despite his deep flaws, cried out, "A broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise." If you feel that your past has left too many scars to be useful, remember this. Scars are just proof that healing happened, and healing is what gives you a story to tell. However, there is a vital distinction you must understand. God chooses the broken, but not the bitter. Brokenness that turns into humility draws God closer. It creates a vacuum that his grace fills. But brokenness that turns into resentment pushes purpose away. If your pain has made you softer instead of harder, or if it has taught you compassion instead of comparison, that was not an accident. You may have wondered why God did not rescue you sooner. Why was the healing so slow? It is because fragile vessels cannot carry eternal weight. He was not trying to destroy you. He was emptying you of what could not go where he was taking you. Your wounds qualified you to hold power without abusing it, and truth without pride. Beyond the scars of brokenness, we find another posture that heaven values deeply. It is the posture of the obedient. In an age of likes and followers, we have begun to mistake visibility for God's favor. We think if everyone is clapping, God must be smiling. But let us be plain. God is not moved by popularity. He is moved by obedience. The world rewards visibility, but God rewards alignment. Some of the most chosen figures in history were not celebrated in their time. They were questioned. They were misunderstood. Often, they were criticized by the very people they were sent to help. Obedience rarely looks impressive in the beginning. Most of the time, it looks lonely. True obedience is often most powerful when it is most hidden. Imagine Noah building an ark when there was no sign of rain. For decades, he hammered wood in the desert. He likely faced the laughter and mockery of his neighbors. That is the weight of being chosen through obedience. It requires you to look like a fool to the world, so that you can stay faithful to the word. Think of the mother who prays for her children in the middle of the night. She does this for 20 years without seeing a change. Yet she continues to pray because God whispered, "Stay." Think of the professional who turns down a promotion because it would require compromising their integrity. If you have ever felt the tension of knowing what God asked you to do, and you realize that doing it would cost you your reputation or your comfort, then you understand this category. Obedience always comes with a price tag. God does not test your faithfulness in the stadium. He tests it in the quiet decisions. He tests the ones no one claps for. He tests the ones no one will ever post on social media. Do you obey when it is inconvenient? Do you stay faithful when disobedience would be easier, more profitable, or even praised by the world? Remember this. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. Every act of hidden obedience rewires your spirit. It sharpens your discernment. It builds a spiritual authority that cannot be bought. If you have lost favor with people because you stayed aligned with God, you did not lose. You were being promoted. God does not entrust heavy weight to those who are addicted to human approval. Heaven records obedience long before earth recognizes fruit. Popularity fades, but obedience remains. This leads us to a third category that might challenge how you view your own potential. We often think God is looking for the best and the brightest. We think we need more degrees, more money, or more readiness before we can step into our calling. But God does not wait for you to feel ready. He waits for you to be available. The world says, "Get stronger, then step forward." God says, "Step forward, and I will be your strength." The history of faith is a gallery of the unqualified. Moses had a stutter. Gideon was hiding in a wine press. David was the youngest brother left in the field. They were not chosen because they were the most capable. They were chosen because they were the most present. When the angel came to Mary, she did not respond with a list of her qualifications. She simply said, "Let it be to me, according to your word." That is the definition of availability. It is a blank check signed by your life, handed to the Creator. Overqualification often breeds self-reliance. When you think you have all the tools, you stop looking to the architect. But availability breeds dependence. Think of Isaiah in the throne room. When God asked, "Whom shall I send?" Isaiah did not ask for a job description or a salary. He simply said, "Here am I. Send me." Many of us miss our choosing because we are too busy checking our schedules or analyzing our inadequacies. Availability means quieting the question, "What about me?" and focusing on, "What is he saying?" It means showing up even when your hands are empty and your voice shakes. If you are waiting to feel confident before you move, you may wait forever. Confidence often comes after obedience, not before it. Are you available? Are you available not just when it is convenient or safe, but when it costs you your comfort? If there is a pull in your spirit toward something greater, that is not pressure. It is purpose. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Before we continue exploring how God refines those He chooses, if this message is resonating with your spirit today, and you are finding it helpful, I invite you to join our community. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps us reach more hearts like yours with the truth of the Word and encouragement. Now, let us look at how God uses the very thing we fear most, rejection, to move us into our destiny. As you walk this path of availability, you will inevitably encounter a tool that God uses to refine His chosen ones. It is the tool of rejection. This is for the ones who have lived on the edges. These are the ones who were never the first pick. If you have ever been overlooked despite your hard work, or if doors closed in your face while others walked through them effortlessly, you might think God has passed you over. But often, your rejection by men is proof of your reservation by God. Rejection is one of God's most misunderstood tools. What people push away, God often sets apart. Look at the life of Joseph. He was rejected by his brothers, sold into slavery, and forgotten in a dungeon. Every door that should have been open was slammed shut. If Joseph had been accepted by his brothers, he would have stayed a shepherd in Canaan. He would have been comfortable, but he would never have saved nations. The rejection he faced was the very vehicle God used to transport him to the palace. Applause can be a distraction, but rejection is a refinement. When the world turns its back on you, your identity is forced to detach from human approval. You stop doing things for the gold star. You start doing them for the well done of heaven. God frequently hides His chosen ones before He reveals them. He does this not to punish you, but to protect you. Isolation is not abandonment. It is alignment. If you do not fit in, or if your convictions make others uncomfortable, or if your presence stirs resistance, it is because you carry something they do not recognize yet. Rejection is the editing process of your soul. You were not rejected because you were wrong. Sometimes you were just rejected because you were early. What people pushed away, God was setting apart. If your rejection did not harden you, and if it did not turn you bitter, then God was shaping you. He was not sidelining you. Finally, we come to the type that God trusts the most. And it is not the one who makes the most noise. God chooses the faithful, not the flashy. We live in a world of sprints, with short bursts of intensity and viral moments. But God is a God of the marathon. He is not looking for people who burn bright for a week and then flicker out. He is looking for the ones who stay steady when the lights are off. Flashy faith draws a crowd, but faithful faith carries weight. Faithfulness is the long obedience in the same direction. It is Ruth staying with Naomi when there was no logical reason to stay. It is the widow giving her last 2 mites when no one was watching but the king. Many of you have been serving quietly for years. You have been praying, working, and showing up with zero recognition. You have wondered if it matters. Let me tell you this. Faithfulness is the language God understands best. It proves love without a reward. God tests your future impact by how you handle your current small things. Do you stay honest when a shortcut is right there? Do you keep your word when it is no longer convenient? Waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. They are training grounds. God builds lasting influence through consistency, not charisma. Charisma can get you into a room, but only character can keep you there. Flash fades, but faithfulness remains. If you are still here and still believing, God sees you. He remembers what others forget. He rewards what others dismiss. He trusts the faithful with what truly lasts. Now, let us bring this all together. Because this was never just information. It was an invitation. You have just heard about the broken, the obedient, the available, the rejected, and the faithful. If you are honest, you probably did not see yourself in just one. Most people do not. This is because God rarely shapes His chosen through a single season. He layers the process. He breaks us so we do not rely on ourselves. He trains us in obedience so we listen when He speaks. He teaches availability so we do not resist when He sends. He allows rejection so we do not depend on approval. And He builds faithfulness so we can be trusted long-term. Being chosen is not about elevation. It is about responsibility. God does not choose people to make them feel special. He chooses them so they can serve with humility, courage, and endurance. If this message stirred something deep, and if parts of it felt uncomfortably familiar, that was not condemnation. That was recognition. God has been forming you quietly in places no one applauded. He has worked through seasons that did not make sense at the time. You may still feel unsure, still imperfect, and still in process. That is not disqualifying. That is exactly how chosen people often feel. So here is the final question. Do not answer it out loud. Carry it with you in the quiet of your heart. Will you keep saying yes? Will you say yes when it is costly? Will you say yes when it is slow? Will you say yes when no one understands? Will you say yes when obedience is heavier than excitement? Because God finishes what He starts. He does not abandon what He chooses. And if He has been shaping you, stretching you, and calling you deeper, then you were never overlooked. You were never late. You were never forgotten. You were being prepared. And the one who chose you is not finished yet. Keep walking, keep trusting, and keep your heart open to the one who sees the gold within your cracks. Your journey is far from over. In many ways, for the heart that is truly chosen, the most beautiful chapters are only just beginning.